There's a special form of markup that search engines use to understand what different blocks of information actually contain. Plain old HTML simply describes to a browser how a piece of text should be displayed on the page. Structured data markup, on the other hand, is ignored by the browsers. Instead, it tells search engines what a particular piece of data actually is. Here's an example, illustrated with perhaps one of the most common uses of structured data markup: reviews. Let's go to Google and search for Indian restaurant. If we scroll down a little, we see this result from Grubhub, a restaurant review site. Notice the stars, the rating, and the number of votes. That's all provided to Google using structured data markup. Let's open up the page and take a look. It's likely that the review information came from over here. So let's look at the source code and find this information. I'll search for this piece of text. Now let's go up above this a little way and we find this line, this item prop element, aggregate rating. Next to item prop, we see a link to schema.org. Let's take a quick look at that page. This page describes aggregate rating, what it is and what it does. You can see that we have various different item properties that can be used. Item reviewed, rating count, review count, and so on. Note, however, that the search engines don't use all these elements. Schema.org provides a huge library of vocabularies for different things, hundreds of different items and even actions. The search engines only use some of them, though. I'll come back to that in a moment. So let's go back to the source code and see what we have. A couple of lines below, we have item prop rating value, the rating value item property. And it shows that the rating value is 3.614. Google showed us earlier that the rating was 3.6, so it's truncating this number, of course. We also see another item prop, the rating count, and this time we're shown 13. In other words, 13 reviews. We can see various other item props on this page. Here, for instance, we can see that the site is using the geocoordinates markup, coding the address and phone number. Later on, we see the restaurant markup, which allows the site to code the URL of the page and the types of cuisine sold by the restaurant. Not all of this coding is being used by Google, though Bing does use some of it. One thing missing from the review code is the item reviewed property, which is in theory required by Google, though it appears to still be working. Now, Google claims it isn't using structured data markup for ranking at the moment, so why bother? Well, perhaps they will at some point. Bing certainly is in some cases, and in any case, it's not exactly true that they're not using structured data markup for ranking. For instance, watch this next example. If we search for Compass app Android, and then select App from the More menu at the top, we get data that was formatted with the use of structured data markup. You can see pictures, star ratings, price, the operating system, in this case Android of course, and the app category. But you probably noticed that when I selected app, I got completely different results. If a page doesn't have tagged data, it isn't finding its way into the application's search results. So Google is using structured data markup to in effect rank pages in certain circumstances. In any case, structured data markup helps make your listings stand out, so they're more likely to be seen and clicked upon. So all in all, structured data markup is a good thing. You can tag various kinds of data, not just reviews and software. You can tag events, music, organizations, people, products, restaurants, and so on. But note that not all content types are used by the search engines right now. Some are fairly early in the development process. People are coming up with ways to tag information, but the search engines haven't got around to doing anything with most types of data yet. At the time we made this video, Google, for instance, was supporting markup for authors, businesses and organizations, events, music, navigation breadcrumbs, people, products, recipes, reviews, software, and video. So right now the markup type shown on the screen is supported by Google, Bing, and therefore Yahoo, and Yandex, Russia's top search engine. Note also that there are different markup formats. The reviews we saw were created using what's known as microdata, but Google also accepts JSON-LD and RDFA, and perhaps micro formats. Some of their documentation says they accept micro formats, but much of the more recent documentation ignores it, so you may want to forget about that format type. Currently, Google recommends JSON for all the items for which they recognize it. They don't recognize it for all things, though they do seem to be widening JSON support. As for Bing, it doesn't support JSON, but does support microdata and RDFA. So, where do you begin learning about structured data markup and the markup formats? A good place to start is at Google, of course. I suggest that you go to Google and search for Google Structured Data Markup, or go directly to this page using the URL shown on the screen. You can also go to the Bing URL shown here to find out how Bing supports structured data markup. And another good place to visit is schema.org, a Google, Yahoo and Bing collaboration, where you'll learn about microdata and the structured data vocabularies. Whichever format you use for coding, you'll use the schema.org item and property names. By the way, Google also provides a testing tool, so you can see the results of your markup. You can find it here. In fact, it's not just a testing tool, it's a handy learning tool. You can enter your own HTML, but you can also enter the URL of some other page that's been coded by someone else, and Google will come back with all the data, as you can see here. This is from the restaurant page we looked at earlier. Markup is a bit of an advanced technique, but it's very useful and really not too complicated if you just spend a little time researching your options.